This after closed session, welcome to this hybrid regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I am Lisa Pelosi, Board President, and I would like to introduce my fellow trustees, Laura Simon, Sean Mora, Jeannie Kerr, and Jean Marie Wolfe, and our student representative to the board, Miss Sunny Calder. I would also like to introduce our district staff, Superintendent Dr. Jody McClay, Assistant Superintendent Mr. Christopher Heller, Chief Business Official Dr. Kay Vang, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board, Miss Erica Madrigal. Our Director of Educational Services is Araceli here. There she is. Hello. Araceli Romo Flores. Director of Community Liaison is Miss Selene Robledo, and Director of Technology, Mr. Derek Machado. Also joining us are site administrators, St. Helena High School Principal, Mr. Ben Cinto, St. Helena Elementary School Principal, Dr. Carmen Emery, and St. Helena Primary School Principal, Mrs. Rebecca Rocha. We are delighted that you are viewing in person on Zoom or television channel 27 or on our YouTube channel. A copy of this board meeting will also be available at our website at www.sthelienaunified.org. In connection with items 4A and 4B, the board received information and provided staff with direction. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 6A is public comments at our board meetings. These are items that are not on tonight's agenda. Up on the screen, you'll see just a brief overview. When you come up to the podium, you can give your name if you'd like. You don't have to. It's not a structured question and answer period, just so that everybody is aware, and there is a 3-minute time limit on your public comment. So we did, trustees, we did receive a written comment as well that kind of came in just before we went into closed session, so please make sure you take a moment to read that as well. So is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment? Please come on up. Welcome.
Hi. I'm Serafina Allen, and I'm a 7th grader at RLS Middle School. And we have come here today to talk about the lack of advanced math at RLS, because we're constantly repeating and relearning subjects that we learned last year or even in elementary school. Like right now, we're working on fractions and things like that, but we learned that in 5th grade. And often we're working on subjects like those for weeks. And even if we have the concept down from day one, we still have to keep doing the same work and teach our peers until they understand it as well. And it's hard to motivate other kids and get them excited about learning as a kid. I would also like to talk about the impact that advanced math would have on our lives. My brother is in an advanced math class at Justin Siena that he could not have been in without having advanced math in middle school, and I feel I'm not getting those same opportunities. My goal is to be a vet, and math is very important in that career, so I need to take advanced math in high school. Middle school math is crucial to get me on that path. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarashito Mumford, and I am also a 7th grader at RLS Middle School. I'm here to talk about the lack of opportunity that is advanced math at RLS. In the classroom, it is extremely upsetting how we repeat and relearn basic math. This process can take weeks, and during this period, we are expected to teach our peers in groups. Some are not enthusiastic, and it is very difficult to motivate them. I am not opposed to helping, but every day is way too much. It is frustrating that the only time our teacher comes to us is to check on the understanding of our peers. My brother took advanced math, and now he has the opportunity to take an engineering class at the high school. Without advanced math, I will never get the same opportunities. I would also like to bring up the topic of state tests, such as the CASP and MAP test. These tests test us on our personal level, which is higher than the curriculum we are learning at school. Because of this, we are unable to score higher on the tests, and it sets a barrier for how high our scores can go. With advanced math, this barrier can be broken, and we can keep reaching higher. Thank you.
Thank you.
Put on my glasses. Hello, I'm Alex Allen, Serafina's mom and Savian's mom, who's a 9th grader and was in the district up until this year. And Dr. McClay, we're so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for being here and helming the district. I feel like this might look like a you again on the advanced math thing. This was actually very much a kid-led effort, and I had no intention of standing up and talking about it again, but the kids who stood up and talked were hopeful that an adult would also stand up with them. So here I am doing that. I would like to just say that from a parental perspective, the simultaneous nature of doing away with the advanced math class at the same time as bringing on the building thinking learning classrooms left a challenge. What I think of as a challenge, and must be for teachers to really effectively differentiate for kids, because you're testing doing away with something while you're testing bringing in a new model and system. And so there is a subset of kids for whom this just doesn't seem to be working effectively and meeting their needs, just academically pushing them and providing them with the challenge that they've asked for. And they have gone through channels at their school advocating for this. And the teachers are amazing. I really do think that it's just a challenge within the system if you don't have that built in and you're still testing a new model while you do away with another. And as this is my child psychologist bit, but I would really love to see the district in math and also in other curricula enable every kid to hit their point of needing to dig into grit and perseverance. And what does it feel like to sit with a real challenge academically? And then that joy that comes with, I struggled with that and I really had to work on it. And then I got it. And there are kids for whom that just does not happen in our current setting and with our current implementation of curriculum. And I think psychologically that's really important. So thank you. I appreciate it and all that you do, board.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to publicly comment?
Hello, I'm Gabe DeVore, and I'm a sixth grader at RLS, and I'm also to talk about, the need for advanced math. But, there's just, with the building thinking classroom, the teacher only comes and checks on us, once or twice. So today, we worked on the problem x plus 14 equals 20 for, 15 minutes, and I had it solved in about 3 seconds. And then we did a challenge thing, which, again, I'd done 3 minutes. It was just not difficult enough. If we continue working on the same subject for 4 weeks, it's just so boring. And then, crap, but might be okay. You go.
Right. I think we all have the same problem, that just it's not challenging enough. There's not any. We're learning subjects that I remember. Here's an example. In 5th grade, we learned that division with fractions is kind of like multiplying by 2, and if you divide it by 1/2, and to flip one of the things around. I don't really know how to explain it, but then again this year we're learning it, and not a lot of people remember it, but it's just annoying learning the same things over and over again, not learning anything new, just not challenging enough.
I'm Simon Watson. I would like to say that it has just been repetitively learning subjects that we've been introduced to since 4th grade. The problems are not challenging enough, and the teacher isn't even really teaching us. We have to teach other students in the building learning thinking groups. So I think the building learning thinking program is a good idea, but it's just we have to teach other people, and other people I don't want to do it, here, you do it. And I do not think that the program is doing well enough, and I think we should definitely bring in advanced math.
Hello, my name is Peter Vangi, and I'm at 7th grader at RLS. I would like to say one thing about advanced math. Basically, I noticed that there is a helping class for people that struggle with math. Although I have learning needs also, I need more advanced math so I can be challenged enough to have that perseverance mindset so I can be challenged. Although they have their needs, we don't. It makes me frustrated that we don't have our needs because we already know the subjects. Thank you.
I have a clarifying question for
Yes.
any. I have a clarifying question for any of the students that would like to come up and answer. I've been hearing information from you about building thinking classrooms, the program, and working with other students and feeling bored. But what if you were to do building thinking classrooms with kids that were at the same level that you're at? Would that make a difference with you feeling more engaged in
That's
it?
not a clarifying question. It's, I'm.
Oh, that's not a clarifying
No,
question?
I'm sorry, it's actually not. You're actually engaging in a dialogue, which is not,
Okay,
something.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'll learn that information later, I
yeah,
guess.
we can actually,
Okay.
that's something that we can. Yes, so, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I will clarify that after, we'll let this gentleman come for public comment. Thank you.
Evening, President Pelosi, members of the board, Josh DeVore, parent of Gabe DeVore, 6th grade. And I do want to talk about advanced math too, because, Gabe was, is an advanced student. He's fortunate enough to start in TK. That already puts him a year ahead of everybody else. He's a smart kid. And for him to now be telling me that math is his least favorite subject and he's bored and frustrated and essentially being assigned to teach math when he's not a member of the teachers union, I think it's frustrating. And, I think, one of the issues is that, they are left, put in random groups and required to, teach the other kids in the group. They're not put in groups with more advanced students. And even if they were, the subject matter that they would be learning is subjects that they learned 2 years ago. And so it's frustrating, and maybe it's not just a lack of advanced math, that maybe the existing math is already been taught. So I'm not sure if part of the problem is simply the curriculum is behind the students. And it may be that all the students should be in more advanced math. I don't know. But the impression I have is simply that, he doesn't like math anymore. And that's a problem for a smart kid that's good at math. And I think you'll know my wife, who's been on, the parent group, run Just Give Big. And the very last thing I want to be thinking about is, do I need to find a different school for my kid who's smart, who's not being challenged? But that's where I am right now. And that's super frustrating. And so I think, given all the resources that we have, this is a solvable problem. That's a program that existed in the past, and bringing it back would be a huge benefit to a lot of kids.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to publicly comment on items not on the agenda?
Hi everybody, welcome. I'm back from UC San Diego. Super happy to be back here. I was just gonna comment on sort of the same thing that I've been hearing. My little brother, he is currently at 6th grade at RLS, and similar to Mr. DeVore's son, he is very, very mathematically gifted, I would say. But similarly to Mr. DeVore's son, he's been talking about how he's been, kind of bored with the math content. I actually sat with him last night while he was completing his assignment, and he was just like not even reading the problems, just going through, clicking the answers through, and there was 6 modules, and the kid's not even phased. And I was like, wow, you're doing this really quickly. And he's like, yeah, it's boring. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, so I don't know. I was, I just kind of share in the sentiments. And then also I was an accelerated math student, so I know what it was like to go through the accelerated program. And I would like to say that I think it was something that helped me get to where I am today. I was able to make it all the way to calculus. And calculus, I would say at the high school is super important, especially if you're a STEM student going into college. Having the background in calculus is super important. So yeah, I just coming from someone who has made it, who's gone through the accelerated program, I think it was something that like didn't really seem like a huge issue. There's only like 12 of us at the time, so I don't think that like there's gonna be too much of an issue with like having, you know, the problem of like, oh, having like 40 kids get accelerated and then like 20 of them are like not ready to be there. There was really only like 11, 12 of us, and I think only one of us had to end up being decelerated. And all 12 of us made it all the way to calculus and are all like now at 4-year universities. And so I think like at the end of the day, I think having an accelerated program allows students who have accelerated like math abilities to be met where they are. And I appreciated that from the accelerated program. And I was able to like, I don't know, I was always super interested in math, and it allowed me to stay curious, and the subject matter is always one of my favorite subjects. And so, I don't know, I kind of hope that, you know, the same can be said for my brother, is that he like stays interested in math, because it's a super great subject, and I think everybody needs to like have math proficiency. It's super important. So thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to publicly comment on items not on the agenda? No one. Oh, what? Somebody? Yep.
Good evening. My name's Evan. I have 2 boys in this school district. They're young now. I'm an economist. That's my job. I use math in my job, and I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to be in advanced math in middle school, and I really hope that my boys also have that opportunity, and all of the students here, you can have that opportunity. So I just want to advocate for that as well. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to publicly comment on any items not on the agenda? Okay, so Dr. McClay, if we could ask that you could get an answer to Trustee Simon's question from the students, and if you need to get clarification on what the question is, but I think you probably heard it. And then I think as far as following up from these concerns, I think it would be incumbent upon you as superintendent to either talk with your principals, however, next step with staff to talk. I know that the math tracking is a hot topic already within the district. So I will allow you to update us on after next steps of what you plan to do with that. Perfect. I do also just want to thank everybody, and I want to especially thank the students. I don't know if you felt remotely nervous about being here tonight. It did not show, so I want to compliment you on having the fortitude and the passion behind your beliefs to come to the board meeting tonight, because we do appreciate very much from hearing from you. So thank you very much for coming. Okay, I think with that, if there's no other public comments, we're going to move on to the rest of the agenda. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go on to 7A, which is the presentation by the student representative of the board. Trustee Calder, please.
Okay, hello everybody. Good evening. This is my December board report. Okay, so generally for every school in the district, this month has been pretty slow, considering we had Thanksgiving break and generally just kind of prepping for Christmas break and finals and stuff like that. So this might be a little short. But as far as St. Helena High School, we had a student council meeting last week where we discussed results from the California Healthy Kids Survey, primarily academic motivation and meaningful participation. And this is kind of in congruency with Student Congress, where we were also discussing these 2 topics and kind of proposing solutions. In Student Council, it was more kind of concrete, where we were like writing them down, and it's all kind of culminate into these kind of survey building activities where we're trying to get more feedback from students in order to improve these things. We had Snow Coming Week, which is kind of like a play on homecoming, but for the holiday season. I'd say it was pretty successful. We had a great Spirit Week and a pretty successful rally, lots of participation, new games and stuff like that. As far as college prep and kind of senior news, the FAFSA and DREAMAC information is kind of starting to be presented more, with financial aid becoming kind of more of a pressing topic in advisory and more in January. And then there was a SRJC application workshop yesterday, and the UC and CSU application deadlines are officially over. So good luck to all those students who submitted those applications. And then finals prep just generally this week and last week with leadership making posters and getting schedules out. And then we had a very successful Sutter Home basketball tournament. We took home first place, which is kind of a first in many years, so very proud of our team. And it's also the first year that we had girls play, which is, I think, pretty special, so excited about that. This is just a picture from Student Congress before the break. We had split every grade we had split the group into grade levels so they could discuss academic motivation, meaningful participation. And it was pretty successful. For the RLS, they have an evening dance coming up, which is pretty exciting. And something I wanted to bring up is they did a Kelvin survey. This is in addition to the CA Healthy Kids survey. Since it skips a grade, they were adding this in for the 8th grade so they can kind of get more representation from the middle school, and pretty positive responses I've heard. And the winter choir and band concert with high school, another activity, I heard it was very beautiful. I didn't get a chance to go, but the Avid Showcase was very successful. We discussed this last meeting, but they're going to continue preparing for this for a January meeting, and they have field trips to the Exploratorium next week. For the elementary school, I actually saw this a couple days ago. It was pretty cute, but the 4th grade class was coming to the high school to make holiday cookies at the culinary department. And they have a bike safety course going on with the Napa Coalition. It'd be 2 sessions, and then they would conclude with a rodeo course tomorrow. It's pretty exciting. They also had I'm sure you guys know, it was a water displacement issue, but students are learning to adapt with kind of reorganization, relocation. And they're also doing a giving tree, which is the holiday fundraiser, where to kind of de-stress families for the holiday season. They're going to be allowing, families that are experiencing more need this season to kind of get gift cards, provisions, and presents and stuff like that. So, kind of spread the wealth. And a new Gaga Ball pit, which if you don't know, is a pretty fun game that the 5th grade is enjoying at the elementary school. And then at the primary, they had a family night at the library, which is pretty cool because a lot of families got more access to the primary school or to the library, got to get library cards and even check out some books. And then a winter sing-along is being planned, along with the new after-school program group. The grades are going to be kind of singing a community song, inviting the parents to sing as well. And this is a picture of them practicing their song with the music teacher. As well as Kotati teachers are visiting the primary school with GLAD, which is kind of a learning program improvement, on December 9th, and observing kind of graphic organizers and language proficiency enablers, like things that we're doing really well with at the primary school. I have a picture to show you, next slide, but the teachers also went to a intervention conference, which is kind of student behavior training and stuff like that. This is an image of one of the graphic organizers that they're kind of looking at. These kind of things really help students who are English learners kind of stay at that same pace and level with students who are already proficient in English. And then another picture of one of those things, it's kind of like a chant or like a song to kind of help get it stuck in their brains and stuff like that. So really important, but that's all I have for you guys today.
Thank you. Trustees, any clarifying questions for Sunny?
I just had one for the primary school. Was the parent visit to the library the public library or the school site library?
I believe it was the public library. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much as always. Okay, the next item is the presentation on our St. Helena High School fall sports, and I believe Mr. Farrell is going to join us at the podium, please.
Thank you. I just was asked to present some information about fall sports this last few weeks ago, so I thought I'd give some information here. Our fall sports start in August, but a lot of them begin all the way back in May and June. And the kids work really hard towards the beginning of the school year where everybody's excited. Our fall sports consist of football. We have a JV varsity football, volleyball JV varsity, cross country. We have girls and boys cross country, and then our cheerleading squad too. And overall, our participation is really high. It's actually grown since last year, and it has consistently grown as we've kind of declined over the last 4 years. I think we're at like 56% overall of all of our students in sports all throughout the year. But that doesn't include all, within that 56%, we have a bunch of students that are also doing 2 and 3 sports. So, when you look at the total, it looks like we have about 320 kids or so, 340 kids that are somehow playing sports or participating within the school year. So fall, we start in August. The football team, plays every Friday night, and they started off slow. We had a number of different injuries, and finished strong. It was a real strong finish for us, even though our playoff opportunity did not exist for us this year. Volleyball did well in their season, made to the playoffs, was awarded number 1 seed, and was able to play 4 or 3 home games, and qualify for the third. I think they played well. They were the number 1 seed in Division 5, and then they made it all the way to the 3rd place game. And if they would have won that, they would have went to Norcal. So they had a real successful end of the season. It was a really nice way to finish. Cheerleading, as my wife tells me, is the most important thing I need to talk about tonight. So they're always excited about what they're doing. They're very involved in the community. They're always doing bake sales, and they're very involved at Harvest Festival and things like that. And they're always really ready to cheer at the football games. So they're had a good season as well. The football senior night was the most probably interesting night, because it rained a lot, and a lot of the kids ended up a lot of the fans went up and left, which I don't blame them, because it was really raining. But it was a fun night, and some of the seniors that did stay for the cheerleading had a lot of fun. Actually, my daughter says it was probably the most fun senior night she could ever have imagined, and and half the team ended up having to go home. So it was a lot of fun. So, but the cross country team kind of took the shining star of the fall season, and the girls won the league championship, and then we had one that qualified all the way to state and competed at the state meet, Karina Schlatter. So we were really excited about that. Yep. So that was it.
Thank you so much.
Sweet, right?
Okay, we're going to move on to item 8, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains routine items judged as appropriate to be acted upon in one motion. If a board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, the item will be considered under discussion and action items. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Okay, and there were no written comments submitted. Trustees, do you have any questions about this agenda item, or would you request to pull anything? Thank you again.
Thank you. I wanted to pull 8J, please.
Okay, 8J. Anything else, trustees? Okay. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 8J as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Okay, so item 8J is the approval of fundraisers. So Trustee Mora?
Yeah, I think it was probably about a year ago this time. And so I'm guessing maybe it just fell through the cracks, but I believe there was a discussion at the dais about making sure that the district is providing for all of the basics that our sports teams need for their safety and just for conducting the sport. And I just really want to make sure that we as the district are providing that and not asking for fundraising when we should provide it. So I guess I just want to make sure if that has happened, because I would just like to make sure we're doing the right thing for our 340 out of it. How many students do we have at the high school?
Right.
Right now.
400.
That's amazing, the participation, and that's always one of, they say, the leading indicator of engagement with students in school, so it's important.
I would just respond with, we do have Mr. Farrell here still, who might be able to provide more information on that, and we have Dr. Vang. I was unaware that that was asked last year, but we can very easily put that together for you, and I'm happy to do so. So I would say give us a week or so, and we can get it to you next Friday. But they may have more information specifically on this particular topic.
Yeah, I can tell you our teams feel very supported by the district, more than necessary. I mean, if you look, when we compete against other teams, we feel very fortunate, and we appreciate that generosity for sure. There are always going to be needs that the coaches come to me with that I go through with them. Is this a need to complete and do the sport or perform the sport? Is this a need where you should go out and ask the Saints athletic boosters? Is this like a wish list thing? Or is this something that, you know, we may not necessarily provide at the district level, but we need to kind of, you know, raise our, you know, some funds if you want to do that. Most of the time, these funds that they're raising is fairly minimal compared to what the cost is that the district is providing to run the sport. If you looked at just football, for instance, I mean, football's an expensive sport, and when you figure in coaching, transportation, the reconditioning of the equipment, and the things that the district is providing, there are other things that we feel as a coaching staff, or our coaches feel that on all of our coaching staffs, that they can use to better them, you know, better their teams and better their kids' experiences. So that's what we go through, and I go through that with all of the different coaches every year and every season. When they ask something from the boosters, Mr. Cinto and myself are always the ones that sign off on whether that request even goes to the boosters. So we know exactly what they're asking for, if that is of interest to them. And then Charlene is like, probably has saved my job hundreds and hundreds of times every year. So I'm always thankful of Charlene and what she tells me I can and can't purchase. Any other questions?
Does that help?
Yes, because when I see medical supplies, like, I was just hoping that we're paying for medical supplies, uniforms.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to assume, and I want to make sure.
Yeah, so
getting
like
what you need.
when I first took over as athletic director, we actually, as our individual programs, were fundraising to have uniforms, to pay for uniforms, and that process went away when I changed over to being the athletic director. And now we have our uniforms on a rotation. But sometimes the coaches see a need for an additional set of uniforms or warm-ups that they may enhance their ability to recruit one or two kids. And that's super important for our team successes. So if we lose one or two kids in any of our sports, our success rate and our experience drastically changes. So that's what I would say about some of our coaches' interest in making their sport the best it can be.
Okay. And I think, Dr. Vang, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yes, so to answer part of your question, Trustee Moore, the district does set aside a budget for the high school athletics. And I'm looking at the budget right now. There is $237,000 set aside for athletics for the high school. Thank you.
Thank you. And so maybe, Trustee Moore, what I'm also hearing from what you're asking is if Dr. McClay puts together some kind of overview, it maybe would be important to kind of know, it would be important to know that do we have what is an ed code responsibility versus what is, to the point, like what's a wish list, what's a want and not a need kind of thing. Is that kind of where your mind is going as well?
Yeah, and I just know a lot of our coaches are volunteer pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work to fundraise, so I just really want to make sure that they're.
Okay.
Well, I was kind of the same with Trustee Moore, as I was reading the one we had now about this year we're looking to replace the following: long jump weather covers, professional timers, registration fees. To me, it's a little embarrassing that our kids are raising money for, to me, something like a timer, and that should be just standard issue part of the sport. So that to me doesn't seem like fluff. That seems like necessity. So I was a little confused why these kids have to go out and raise money for something that seems part of the sport's requirements.
If you don't mind me answering that specific question, Trustee Wolf. So the timing system, we actually, I think it's in this board meeting, surplusing our automatic timer because we have had a hard time finding the right kind and the right dedicated volunteers to run that. What they're asking, what he's raising money for, is to have professional timers come at a 1 or 2 time basis, and that's not something that we have to run a track meet. We don't run, so it's not something that if you go to a regular dual meet track meet, like if we're only facing 2 or 3 different teams, that's typically at one of these track meets, unless you're at a big school that are having these things all the time. So that is not like we're fundraising for something that has to be done for that specific event. It's a little bit of a want more than a need.
That's funny. That's kind of a semantics thing, because to me, a personal timer, I thought it's like a piece of equipment, not a person with a timer. So that helps too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for. Oh, okay. Are you feeling comfortable with where we are? Okay.
Yeah, and if you don't, one more thing.
Sure.
President Pelosi, it's a very, we've kind of gone around, Mr. Cinto and I have worked kind of hard to put together the beginnings of a document that look like what does every sport need to be run?
Okay.
What does it need to be successful, and kind of what other things that we need to? And you kind of get into some gray areas, because I always say, does a basketball player need shoes? Yes, but we don't buy kids shoes. So there are many things that we could list that the kids need to be able to play basketball, right? But it's not always what the district is purchasing.
Okay.
Yeah, because then it gets into that gift of public funds and things
Right.
like that.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Okay, so with that, is there a motion to approve item 8J of the consent agenda?
I will make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to communications, and I think after communications, we may just take a short break and then resume the rest of the agenda items. So 9A is board member reports, and Trustee Simon is going to speak to us this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so I had the privilege and pleasure to meet with Principal Cinto, and I invited Dr. McClay to join us to help her just have as many opportunities to learn about the district as possible. And Principal Cinto provided a lovely and thorough slideshow that I asked Dr. McClay to send to all of the board members, so you should have or will receive that. I find it to be an incredibly helpful piece of information, not only for board members, but for community members perhaps in the future. So the topics that we covered was school counseling services by grade level, scholarship application and essay support and college essay writing, scholarships awarded to our seniors, and the new MathWorks math modeling competition that will be coming up this spring for our juniors and seniors. So I just want to share with you the freshman slide to give you a taste, and I'll read from it, what freshman students experience in large group and individually by their school guidance counselors. So they learn about the importance of grades and time management. They learn about what A through G requirements means versus the high school graduation requirements. Oh, thank you. How to calculate grade point average, course planning and rigor importance, career and college introduction, semester check-ins, scheduling presentation, and scheduling appointments as necessary with their counselors. And then as students transition from grade to grade, this list grows. So they may revisit some of the options on that freshman specific list, and then they will have more experiences with counseling and getting ready for college each year. Some of the things that stood out to me that I'd like to share with my fellow board members is that the PSAT and the SAT are offered on campus. The PSAT is offered at no cost to all sophomores and juniors who sign up. And then the SAT, again, is offered to our seniors in the early fall. In the spring, there are a variety of junior workshops that are available to students. They have to sign up and know to go to them. But there's a college search workshop, there's a college application organizer workshop, a senior panel, a financial aid workshop, letters of recommendation and brag sheets workshop, and college essays and personal insight questions. And also something that really stood out to me is when our students are seniors, they have extensive time spent in class so students can work on their essays for college and their personal insight questions if they are applying to the UC system. So I really appreciate the level of support that our students are given in class to work on those essays. They can review them with peers. They have the opportunity to bring the essays not only to their English teacher, but to other teachers to get just as much feedback as possible to write the best essays that they possibly can. The other item that we discussed was, because I was intrigued, I saw it on the high school bulletin, was the new MathWorks math modeling competition. This is led by Mrs. Rios, who is also our teacher. I have the notes right here. She teaches psych, advanced psych, stats, and advanced stats. And she is leading the MathWorks competition, and this will be a they have up to 14 hours to solve a real world problem. This will be a Saturday morning when the students come to school, and it will be begin early Saturday morning around 7 a.m. And because Mrs. Rios doesn't want to start at 11 and then have to stay till 1 a.m. So it's all online with other schools, but they will actually these students will work together in person while working on this real world problem. So I really appreciated hearing about another opportunity outside of class to just have some fun, lively competition in math. So thank you, Mr. Cinto. It was wonderful, and I look forward to all of you seeing the slides he put together because lots of fabulous information.
Great, thank you so much. Trustees, any questions for? Okay. All right, item 9B is the board president's report. So I have just a few things tonight. I want to first we're going to talk about it a little bit later about the CSBA conference that we went to in Anaheim, but I just wanted to take an opportunity to give a shout out to Miss Erica Madrigal because she makes that happen for all of us to go and gets us organized. She provides opportunities for us to be together as a team, and she puts a lot of thought and heart into that. So thank you as always, Miss Madrigal. And I also, it was great because we had Dr. McClay and Mr. Heller with us. So it was truly an opportunity for us to be together as a team. So thank you. I came up with an acronym for our CSBA, and it's FABIO. And it's for fulfilling, always informational, building professional development, instructional updates we received, and opportunities to meet with other board members. So that's going to be our acronym as we go forward. So I just wanted to share that with you.
That's brilliant, President Pelosi.
Thank you. I figured you would like that. I also wanted to let everybody know that our organizational meeting has been moved to Monday, the 16th. We are required to do it 1 year after the date, which is tomorrow. So we have a special closed session on Monday, but we will have an open session of which the roles of the board will shift at that particular point. New president, new vice president, new clerk to the board will happen. That will happen on Monday. And then lastly, on Monday, December 16th, I remind everybody that it's our staff holiday party at the Harvest Inn beginning at 4 p.m. Do I have that correct? Okay, again at the Harvest Inn. And that's all I'm going to share with you this evening. Thank you. Superintendent's report, please. Dr. McClay.
Okay, well, it looks like most of our students have left. A couple of them might be left. I just wanted to share there's a lot of conversation going on around the math topic. So even as late as this afternoon. So we are brainstorming and working on solutions for that in the near future, okay? With regard to my planned comments tonight, last month I spent a lot of time discussing my site visits to the middle school and the high school and how impressed I was at the breadth of programs, the level of rigor going on in our classrooms. This month, though, I wanted to give a shout out to our primary school and our elementary school because while I had visited the sites last month, I hadn't had the opportunity to go into every single classroom and observe the teachers working their magic in action. And I have since done so and wanted to share just a little bit. So not only do I believe, excuse me, that's a CSBA ramification left over from all of the travel. But not only do both of our primary and our elementary campuses have what I would call a palpable and positive school climate from the moment you walk on campus, with friendly students who welcomed me in every classroom. They were so proud to tell me what they were learning, even the little TKers who couldn't wait to talk me through exactly what they were doing. But really the attention to early literacy stood out so much, particularly on our primary campus. I wanted the board to realize that many of our TK, kinder, and first grade students are receiving a triple dose, as we call it in education, a triple dose of small group reading from a credentialed teacher, and that is pretty amazing. We all know as in education that if students aren't reading by second or third grade, we've got a serious problem because it's at that point that they're no longer learning to read, but they're reading to learn. So if they're struggling in reading, it's going to eventually affect every other content area. So the fact that our teachers are so committed to this, it was evident in every single classroom. The board is obviously to be commended as well because you've put resources behind that work. We have reading specialists, literacy specialists that are in there working with students in small groups, like I said, as much as 3 times a day. And that's really, really impressive. Also impressive at that site were the visible learning objectives in our classrooms. And not a lot of folks realize that the research, particularly by Bob Marzano, for any of our teachers watching, says that when a teacher communicates the learning objective to the students at the beginning of the lesson, and this goes for students of any age, from our littles all the way to adults, we are 27 times more likely to be able to do that skill or demonstrate that knowledge at the end of the lesson. And it's a simple thing to do, is just to formulate that learning objective. Here's what I want you to be able to do at the end of this lesson. And our teachers are doing it. They're well written, correctly formulated objectives, and that was really, really impressive. Likewise, the elementary school was just as impressive, but for a different reason. I was really awed by the evidence of teacher collaboration, meaning they are truly discussing what is it we want our students to learn specifically within the standards. And that doesn't mean that teachers have to be teaching the exact same thing at the exact same time, because we recognize that they're professionals and they need the ability to monitor and adjust based on their students' needs. But there's evidence throughout the classrooms that they have identified those essential standards, essential skills, and are working on them at similar times during the year. So that was really impressive, as was the visual and performing arts program, music in particular. You saw a little bit of that in our student board members presentation tonight. We also saw a little bit of that last last night. And that leads me to what a busy time of year it is. We had the fortune last night, I believe President Pelosi and Mrs. Kerr joined me for our choir concert here at the Performing Arts Center with our 6 through 12 students. And what an impressive amount of musical talent we have. And I believe that is seen all the way down into our TK classrooms. So again, kudos to the board for really bringing music into our classrooms at all levels. That was evidence last night. I still want to meet the piano player in the first act. Holy cow, you could hear a pin drop in the Performing Arts Center. So I'll speed up a little bit. I know I'm taking too much time, but this is a really busy time of year with lots of things going on, lots of special events, activities. You mentioned a couple. Also, it's a time of transition. And so with that, I thought it would be very, very appropriate that we thank our outgoing board president, Mrs. Pelosi, who has been our board president. This was unbelievable to me for 3 years. That is almost unheard of, because what folks don't realize is there's a lot of additional work that comes with being the board president, from meeting management and agenda setting and press inquiries and policy development. We spend an inordinate amount of time, in addition to her real job of making sure that our organization and our district is continuing to do great things. So we have a certificate for you. It says it's given to Lisa Pelosi on behalf of the St. Helena school community for your dedicated service as a governing board president from December of 2021 to December of 2024. We have some flowers for you as well. And then I'm hopeful that the board will indulge us at the end of the meeting tonight if we could go out into the lobby and take a picture with you to commemorate our thanks for your 3 years of hard service.
You know, I'm not bashful. I would have prepared words had I known. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And with that, I'll just wish everyone a happy holiday, get rest, recharge, and we will see you back in 2025.
Okay, and I got my very own foam gavel. That's so great. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Absolutely. It's been my honor and my privilege to be able to do that. So thank you for trusting me with that role. Okay, I don't want to talk anymore because I might get a little bit emotional, and I don't want to do that. So we'll move on to our subcommittee reports, and we have 3 to cover: Business Operations, Equity and Belonging Committee, and Monrovia. And we'll start with Business Operations, Trustees Mora and Wolf. So if anybody wants to start, please do so.
Sure. It was a quick update because it was a lot of content that was covered at the last meeting. There was an update on the solar project, and basically it was re-inviting everyone to the community meeting on December 17th, 5 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center. They're going to have layouts of where all of the solar panels will be in case anyone is curious. Another just making sure, because sometimes you need to hear the message multiple times, of all of the different facilities projects we have, and asking for all staff to help us with the priority of what needs to be done to keep our school sites warm, safe, and dry, our highest priority. There's, I guess, one more. I think it's only the high school maybe that hasn't had the opportunity to provide feedback, and I think that was all. Do you have anything else to add?
No, same, but I would say while rain is wonderful for the Napa Valley, it certainly has wreaked a lot of havoc on our schools over the last year. But warm, safe, and dry. We'll get there.
And the big shout out was given in our meeting for the facilities staff for basically, I guess,
stepping
being on
in
this
and-
elementary school roof, just pushing water off constantly. So for everyone that was participating in that, and I believe they're also the spotlight on the CSEA staff, which I loved that they were spotlighted. So we'll see their faces and names later. So that was it. Thank you.
The next one was the Equity and Belonging Committee, and that was Trustee Kerr and myself. Would you like to start? And I can always.
Sure. So the Equity and Student Belonging meeting was last evening. It was our first one of the year. Mainly an organizational meeting, just to have Dr. McClay was just getting a sense of what we might want to tackle this year as far as a group. We did start out with a conversation about creating a sense of belonging, and I'm going to do a little shout out to our CSBA keynote speaker, Dr. Lori Santos. She's the science of well-being for teens, and she's that's happiness. What is the happiness is?
I think it's the science of happiness,
The Science
and she
of
has the happiness podcast. Right.
Correct. Thank you. And so we actually saw her. She spoke at the CSBA, and if you ever have a chance to listen to her podcast, it's very intriguing, very thought-provoking, and you'll feel happy all the time. So, and part of the things Dr. McClay gave us a little bit of data about belonging, and this comes from Dr. Lori Santos. And what did the data say? Over 60% of high school students report being overwhelmingly anxious, and this is not just here at St. Helena High School. This is throughout the nation. 37% of teens say they have poor mental health, and nearly 70% of college freshmen report being incredibly lonely. And so that was the jumping off point of our conversation last evening, and it's just the beginning of possibly what we want to continue to talk about as student belonging. Dr. McClay has asked us to report back to her as to what we would like to discuss further in the next couple of meetings that we have next year. Is there anything else that you would like to?
I think that you've covered all my notes as well, so
Okay,
thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
And the last one is the Monrovia. So Trustee Simon, please.
So Monrovia met this morning, and Dr. McClay and I met with several members of the community. And the last few meetings, we have really tried to make a point to work together on supporting the youth in our community. We really want to transition from just a share out to really putting our heads together and tackling challenging subjects to make sure that our youth are happy, healthy citizens in St. Helena. And so next steps from the last meeting, what we were supposed to share out this time, were what are our peer preventive services that we provide. And so Mr. Heller provided me with services that not just the one-on-one therapy counseling, but the preventative services that we provide for small group during advisory regarding drugs and alcohol, who on campus you can come talk to, but just things of the preventative nature. And then Supervisor Ann Cottrell shared the Mentis program and the other things that the county is doing to support its youth. Then we had a very engaging conversation about coming together during this politically changing time to support all of our undocumented families and children in St. Helena, to make sure that they feel safe. And so we were really working on that messaging. One thing that Dr. McClay and I shared is that when students are on campus, that the campuses are safe places for children, that they cannot be removed by government officials once they have stepped on our campus. So that's a really important messaging that we want to share with all of our families who may feel scared or hesitant to send their kids to school in the future. We really want to maintain attendance. We want to maintain happy, healthy children who are achieving. And so we want to let families know that when their children are on our campus, that they are safe, that they cannot be removed. We also learned that the sheriff has attended 2 masses, Catholic masses, to share their message of support, and that the sheriff and local police department do not remove people from their homes. That's not their job. They are there to support everyone that lives in the community. So the police department is also sharing the information about their role during, again, this changing political time. So that was conversation that we had. So next steps for us when we meet in February is to come together, and Cottrell is going to email the other members of Monrovia that were not able to attend, and make sure that all of our messaging from all of our groups we're all on the same page. So there's no confusion and everyone is on the same page with messaging. Dr. McClay, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I just would concur. I think it was a really powerful conversation with a lot of folks in the room committed to the same thing, and that is ensuring that our students and families feel safe. I subsequently met with all of our local superintendents from surrounding districts this afternoon, as well as our county superintendent, to talk more about how we're going to message that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a very important conversation to have, so I really appreciate that the committee had that. Okay, item 9E is the St. Helena Teachers Association report to the board. Mr. Lusseldorf, please.
Good evening, trustees. So, long time I haven't been here for a little bit. Unfortunately, I had to miss October 1. I had a family thing. I had to fly out to Europe. Anyways, and so yeah, my mom passed away. So anyway, so it was like all of a sudden. So anyways, it was not intentional to miss a board meeting. And then the last one was soccer, a much more positive thing to miss one for. So, but I'm back. So nonetheless. So anyway, I wanted to speak a little bit to the group that presented in the beginning of the meeting tonight. I would just say, remember, we have a group of experts at this school or at our district, and I would argue, I'm confident they're probably, well, I know they are the most competent and dedicated group of math staff that I think you can find not just in this county, but beyond. And I think whatever solutions we find, it really is important to hear their voice and their opinion and their guidance. And I think it should not be dismissed. So I really want to make sure that they're honored, and that the amount of work and effort they put into the math curriculum, I see what they do behind the scenes, the dedication and the conferences they're going to. So just keep that in mind on whatever adjustments we make. I think it's really important. So on another note, I want to mention we're looking forward to our holiday party on Monday that the district puts on, and celebrating years of service. Those are always big accomplishments. And one of the things that this district does really well is, once we find good teachers, they stick around. And that's really a good thing. I don't think this is the easiest district to get tenure in over my lifetime, what I've seen versus what I know happens in other districts. So once we get teachers here, I think it's really neat that we can celebrate their years of service. Last year we had somebody get 50 years. So that's how long people will stay in this district. So it's great to honor that, and we appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you on Monday.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for being here. Okay, item F is the California School Employees Association report to the board. Hello, Josefina, how are you? Good.
I'm making noise. Okay, bought us this, so I'll be wearing it all week. I'm going to read it, but it's up there. This is our report for this month. With the deferred maintenance project equaling millions of dollars, we thought it might be a good time to showcase our facilities maintenance and ground department. These dedicated men have handled a vast area of ongoing facility needs, from plumbing, lock and key, painting, stripping, pavement, electrical. They support the custodial staff and provide many more services. They keep our sites functional. New to us this year is our facilities director, Michael Flores. Mike jumped in with both feet and has already become a valuable asset to the Santa Elena Unified School District. Mike was on site at the primary to figure out a short we had on our fire alarm system. Within 10 minutes, the problem was identified and addressed. We appreciate his prompt response, and the students could return to the focus and learning. I also want to mention that it's always freezing in our office, and so Mike did a great job to help us with our not be so cold. Those we always have blankets, and I can't connect the heater because then there's a outage. One of the something pops. So I'm always like, Mike. So he's done a really good job in being able to like in the moment help us. And I know there's like a leakage outside too, like downstairs. So he's always just really prompt, like to help us and make sure that we're not cold or freezing in our little corner. Then we have our maintenance specialist, a senior lead, Chris. Chris came to us last year and is constantly busy at the different sites. Chris' range of knowledge helps us tackle an area of challenges. Chris goes above and beyond when needs arise after hours. He's our on-call go-to and has even supported in custodial when we were short-staffed. Then we have our senior maintenance specialist. Daryl has been with us since 2014. Daryl's background in the trades, he's a wealth of knowledge and capabilities. Twice during Nikki's time working at the elementary school, the staff couldn't get into the doors that were locked, and of course this was after Daryl's hours and other maintenance had left. Nikki phoned Daryl, and instead of him driving all the way from Vacaville, he walked Nikki through to how to unlock the doors. Then finally, Michael Brew was hired in 2014 as a custodian and prompted over to maintenance specialist under, I'm not going to butcher that word, so I switched it. It was a word that I am not going to say. Under Daryl's mentoring, Michael has thrived in maintenance for over 3 years and continues to grow his skills. Our ground crew is one big happy family, literally. First, we have Jose Bautista, who is seen with the Santa Elena Unified, who has been with Santa Elena Unified since 2016. He is most recognized by his cowboy hat as he mows the fields. His brother, Alberto Bautista, was hired full-time in 2022, and we are lucky enough his son Eric Bautista joined the team in 2023. They're a smooth working team who work most of their time together at each site, including the district office. I always see them outside, all of them together. I always say hi to them. But with the big storm, we had recently directed them to go be stationed at 3 different sites to help with any problems we had. We are thankful for the hundreds of thousands of dollars these capable men saved us annually with their combined wealth of knowledge. I do also want to thank, I know I'm here in the district and I always bother Martha, our custodian, and she's always so helpful in helping me set up when Araceli has meetings, and I'm like always texting her and a call away, and I'm always hearing the radio, custodian 1, do you copy? And Martha's always nice enough to help. And then as well as our paras were CPI trained this Saturday, so we were really excited for them to get that training. And then our food services ladies doing a great job stepping up while one of our food service ladies was out. And I just want to thank you guys because this is my last time as e-board, because there'll be new e-board hopefully next January, and I don't think I'll be part of it, but I will be here around. I'm not going anywhere, so thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay, items 9, G, H, I, and J are the written reports from the site principals. And as always, we truly appreciate you compiling those for us and acknowledging students and volunteers and all the other wonderful highlights at your campuses. So thank you for that. With that, we're going to just take a quick, about a 7-10 minute break, and then we will come back and hop right on item 10A. Thank you. Okay, thank you everybody for allowing us to take that break. We're going to pick up on item 10A, which is the Community Liaison and Community Engagement Mid-Year Report. Ms. Selene Robledo, please.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Hi, good evening, trustees and everyone here. Thank you all for being here and for giving me the opportunity to update you all on our initiatives for our community engagement. My name is Selene Robledo. I am Director Community Liaison, Community Engagement for Salina Unified School District. And I have my notes, so I'll be looking down. My goal is to create an environment that is supportive of all our families, our youth, and our staff. I want to be that individual that, do I press next? Oh, right here? No, right here. Sorry. There we go. Like I was saying, I want to be able to empower our families, our students, and our staff through supporting them, through providing resources and partnerships. So that is my goal as the Director of Community Liaison. What I did in the beginning when I was first hired is that I created a parent survey. It was a couple of questions, and talking with Chris and Araceli, I was getting a lot of guidance from them, and we thought that a parent survey would be our baseline for how we're going to measure our community engagement through the school year. There were 78 responses that we were collected, and approximately 52% of them identified as Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. Two of the questions asked, how satisfied are you? That is the baby blue bar. So about 80% of the people that responded were satisfied with the current communications that they were receiving, and 10.5 were dissatisfied. And the second question was asking about how informed they feel about school events, policies, and any updates. And that's the dark blue bars. And it was about 81% were informed. And then, funny, it was the same for feeling uninformed. So those were two of the questions. And then for another question that I wanted to share with you all was, how often do you participate in school-related activities or meetings? And in the bottom, it's the same question in Spanish. So we want to increase the orange and the green. We don't want to see blue or red. We want parents to participate as often and always as they can. But some factors that, in our next question was, what are factors that influence your decision to participate or not participate in these events? Work is one that came up a lot. I mean, parents are working, sometimes, are working 1 or 2 jobs, working late, so a lot of times work is what gets in the way. Other reasons is availability, schedule, childcare, and language. And I really reflected on a lot of these, like childcare. It's something that we can, in our parent workshops, we can provide childcare for those parents, and it's something that we have done. For example, in our Song for Charlie event, we were able to provide childcare for parents, knowing that workshop was going to be about fentanyl awareness, and we didn't want the little ones to be participating in that event. So we provided childcare. Some of the support services that I have been doing since I started is the newcomer intake process. I conducted 20 assessments with students that have just have just recently arrived into the United States, and I was able to assess their academic background and see where they're at currently and how we can best support them. And I shared that with teachers and the staff needed in order to provide them support. I also reached out to 20 families that are currently experiencing homelessness. 15 students in our district are currently McKinley-Vento eligible, so they are currently experiencing homelessness, and I am staying connected with those families, providing resources, and doing as much as I can to support and help those families. I am also attending regularly the multi-tiered systems of support, TSS meetings, which I really enjoy going to each school once a week and being able to collaborate with teachers and staff in each school. And I'm very interested to learn more about how we can best support our students. And then referrals. We have submitted 17 referrals to Up Valley Family Center's Triple P and to Aldea for mental health support. And then I continue to collaborate with outside services to bring them in and support our students and families. I want to say thank you to our wonderful principals. They have been so kind to me and so helpful, and I just want to appreciate them because I think the schools are running because of them. So I'm very grateful for them. I have been able to establish partnerships with the principals, and Mr. Cinto and Mr. Fetters were my, when I was here, they were here, so they were my principals. I still call Mr. Cinto's. So it's just weird to call them by their first name. I have also been attending our ELAC meetings, which is our English Learner Advisory Committees, and I want to present Rolando Calderon, which is in the audience, Zaira Hernandez, and Tania Cano, which are representatives of our school for our ELAC meetings, and also our DLAC meetings. So thank you for being here. DLAC is the District English Learner Advisory Committee, which I've been supporting. Araceli, she runs this meeting, and I've been supporting her, and it's great that we're seeing a lot of parents coming to that. And then we had our Latino Family Literacy Project, which 20 families signed up, and we have Sandra here in our audience. Sandra, hi. She was attending every single session. It was a 6-week session to teach families about continuing how to help their children continue their education to go into university or college. So it was a very successful, and I'm very thankful for the RLS for letting me help and support with that. Next is building connections. I think it is very important that we shout out some of our outside service providers that are helping us, support our students and families. Up Valley Family Centers, Up Valley Partnership for Youth Coalition, Aldea, Parks and Rec, and COE, which is Napa County Office of Education. So we're continuing to build those connections. And then I wanted to share some parent workshop photos because I am very proud of the amount of people that are in these photos, and the collaboration, sorry, my words, that we are all doing in order to get the word out of all the amazing workshops and events and meetings that are being done in this district, and we're getting, a lot of people to show up. So these are some photos that I wanted to share. I wanted to share some stories. I think that everyone here got the copy of this, and you can read it more in detail, but this is something that we, are fortunate to go home and have a roof over our heads and clothes and food. And unfortunately, some more of our families don't have that. So, I have been able to help assist a single mom, finding a home. She was actually able to move October 30th, and she's in a little studio with her son. I asked her if she could come today, and she doesn't have transportation. So she really wanted to be here, and I told her, no, it's okay. You don't have to. It's okay. I also was able to collaborate with Clínica Olé, mobile unit, and they came and helped our newcomer students get their physical so that they can try out for sports, which is, something that they didn't have a primary care doctor. They were new here. It was difficult for them, so they were able to do that. And I just think anytime a family calls me, I'm just there to listen, and I think that's very important. So these are some stories I wanted to share. We did something new, Giving Things, Giving Back campaign. Salina Unified School District was asked to to give back by providing grocery gift cards. We were able to raise over $3,000, and we helped families that were dealing with food insecurity. And I want to continue this initiative annually, and maybe next year we'll do 6,000 and help double the families. And I wanted to share really quickly that this was very important to me because when I was in high school, I was a sophomore or junior. I went to the office here, and Mr. Fetters handed me a gift card and said, a teacher is gifting you this. And it was a gift card for a little salon in downtown, and it was $50. And I still to this day don't know who that teacher was, but I am so thankful that someone, saw that this would make me happy. And I think that this campaign means a lot to me because I was part of that effect. Just wanted to share that. My next steps, I want to continue expanding partnerships in our community and bringing resources for our families and students. I want to strengthen the relationships I'm building with families. I want to fill up this room maybe next time, and then I also want to monitor and evaluate the impact that this position is doing with our district. And I think the survey that I did in the beginning will help because I'll redo that survey towards the end and hopefully get more responses. And of course, this would not have happened without the support of every single person that works in this district. And I just want to thank everyone because everyone's been so nice and so kind. And I'm very, very happy to be here. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Selene. Trustees, or I guess, is there any public comment on this agenda item?
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Tania Cano. Voy a hablar en español porque somos representantes de ILAC.
Good afternoon. Her name is Tania Cano, and she's going to be talking in Spanish, and she's a representative of ILAC.
Quiero solamente hacer mención sobre la diferencia del año pasado con este año sobre las juntas escolares que están haciendo las directoras de primaria y elementaria.
She wants to make comments about the ELAC meetings that the principals from the primary and elementary school are doing.
Nuestros números de padres han aumentado, que es algo que nos da alegría porque el año pasado estaban disminuyendo un poco. Ahora los números de padres que asisten a las juntas son bastantes y es algo que se está viendo muy bien porque la forma que las directoras están llamando la atención para los padres está haciendo un impacto muy grande.
The amount of people that are now showing up to the meetings has doubled, and it is very impressive because it was actually going down last year. She is very happy about the way that communication is being presented to parents.
Las directoras han hecho un labor muy bonito porque han llamado la atención a nuestros padres latinos con comida, con pláticas importantes como el fentanilo que tuvimos en la junta pasada. Fue un tema que muchos padres se interesaron en aprender.
The principals have done a great job also informing the parents about all of the workshops, like the fentanyl workshop that we had, because it's important for parents to learn.
Y también el horario ha funcionado muy bien para todos nuestros padres, y también las directoras han abierto un espacio para nosotros los padres para tener alguna opinión o algo que necesitemos que nos ayuden. Todas las escuelas se han reunido, primaria, elementaria, high school y middle school.
The times have also been great for parents, and I think that also has to do with them showing, a lot of parents showing up. And then the principals have decided to make ELAC a combined meeting with all of the schools, which also has increased participation, and she says it's something that she really enjoys.
En este año tenemos la oportunidad de poder compartir con Araceli y Selene. Vamos a conocernos este año. Han dado un impacto también impresionante para nuestros padres latinos. Se han acoplado a su buena comunicación y ayuda, que se les agradece.
This year, they have also been able to get closer to myself and Araceli, and she says that we have made an impact with the families, Latino families, and she looks forward to continuing to grow that relationship.
Muchas gracias.
That's great.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to say something. I wrote it down. Selene has connected with the Hispanic community in St. Helena. And I'd like to personally tell you about my family. I have a child here at the high school. I have 2 kids, but my daughter was in Selene, one-on-one, and this child didn't want to go and see anyone. And we were able to arrange a session with Selene, and I was not expecting anything, really. So when, at the end of that session, when Selene comes out with my daughter, and Selene tells her, see you guys next week. To me, that was progress. And I am grateful that she has come to St. Helena, and thanks to her, my daughter has improved her behavior, and she really has given her hope that things can get better. So as a parent, I couldn't ask for more. I just want my child to be happy and healthy. And Selena is trustworthy. My daughter did want to get ready to see her week after week. And I have seen the impact that she has made in my child's life. Also, this same child was having difficulty struggling at school. and we went to the classes that we had at the RLS, and we left. And after that, my daughter and I were having conversations about continuing her education. So these programs and Selene coordinating them really helps. And I hope that she is given the support, the tools, and the resources she needs so she can continue helping other families. And if we can help one family, that's progress, and I will forever be grateful. Thank you, Selene, for everything. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Saida Hernandez, and I just want to thank Selene pretty much because I'm new to the school district. My son is at the primary, and I had no idea about any of the meetings or anything. My son was at a different district last year, and I pretty much just went to the school for their teacher conferences, and that was once, and that was pretty much all of the meetings that they had. And so I'm thankful because I'm learning pretty much about all the meetings and getting involved, and it's good. It's good for me, so I'm grateful.
That's great. Thank you.
Trustees, any questions for Selene?
I have a couple questions and comments.
Okay.
One was more of a question. You talked about earlier in your report about the homeless families, and that just makes me so sad. I can't find where I had that, but are we able to help them find like temporary shelter? Where are these families staying? Because obviously, St. Helena, you don't see people on the street, and that are we able to find places that are safe or at least temporary to keep them warm, safe, and dry?
Yeah, the definition of a homeless family doesn't necessarily mean they're living in the streets. There is a family that was living in their car all summer long. Yeah. But it also means, they're sharing housing because of financial hardship, right? They're renting a room, a family of 4. So a lot of the families of these 15 students that are McKinley-Vento are, renting a room, but it's a small space for the family, right? And we want to, I wish I can provide that house, like stable housing where everyone gets a room. And unfortunately, living in St. Helena, there's not a lot of options and everything is very expensive. But we have connected families to the shelter. We have connected families to county, where they provide us a social worker that helps them apply to different apartment complexes. They help with the down payment and the first month rent. So a lot of families are connected with the county. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And my other is just a comment because we've talked about this between us and at CSBA. I know one of the sessions I went to, I'm not sharing my information yet, but we were talking about engaging members of our Latino community and how difficult it is in this day and age. And one of the people there took me aside and said, the biggest thing you can do is establish trust. Have someone that families trust. So when they tell them we're having a session, they know it's safe to go there. And I'm just listening to this, it kind of chokes up because it's like, I'm so proud of you establishing this trust and seeing these pictures of all these people and seeing that people feel good to come to our school and want to participate. So I think that's fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have just thank you very much for being here this evening, and thank you very much for all the work that you're doing for our families. So my question is, the Latino Family Literacy Project, is that something that will just be sessions once a year, or is it going to repeat again during kind of the next semester, like January time?
Principal Andrew wants to repeat it, so it's each semester. It's new to the RLS. I know that the primary did it last year. Primary elementary school did it last year, so we are hoping to repeat it next semester.
That's excellent.
It
'cause
was
it's-
very popular.
and it's very valuable too for our families,
Yeah.
absolutely, through our entire school community. I mean, so and so that was my only question. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to hear that as well.
I just wanted to say thank you, and this being your first report with our district is very thorough. I appreciate the survey the information that you shared with us on the survey. I was also really pleased to hear that DLAC has doubled this year, and that there is a sense, it's really exciting. And that and I love that you are a St. Helena alumni. I think that also really helps build trust and community. And thank you for sharing your personal story. That's not always easy to do. And thank you for providing other personal stories. It really brought to life the work that you do for us every day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I can kind of say ditto to all of that. But I want to say, when I was looking at your presentation, one of the things that did really strike me was the amount of people in those photos. So I'm glad that you called that out. And I mean, thank you for being on ELAC and DLAC and all of those. I do recall going to ELAC meetings, 10 years ago, and there'd be 3 people in the room. So to see this, it was like goosebumps. I mean, honestly. So congratulations to all of you for doing that work. Your voice wants to be heard. We want to hear your voice. So please continue to participate. And thank you for all the great information you shared with us. One question on the survey was when they were asked if they were dissatisfied, was there another breakout question of why they were dissatisfied, or was it just a satisfied, dissatisfied?
For this question, it was a rank from 0 to 10, and I combined the 0 to 3 as dissatisfied.
Okay.
But then I can share with you the rest of the questions, and there was a question that said, on top of my head, I can't remember exactly, but it did ask how we can improve.
Great. I think that's always helpful information for the district staff to know, because there could be a variety of reasons why someone's dissatisfied, and it would be helpful, I think, because it would great to see those 10% pop into the other columns, so that everybody felt like they were informed and satisfied. So
also, one goal is to get more parents.
I know
to
that
take
was
it.
yeah. Well, you're on your way, it looks like. So thank you. Keep up the great work. Thank you again for being here this evening. It's great to have you. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me go back to get my place there. Okay, item 10B is the request to accept gifts, donations, or earmarked funds. Trustee Simon, would you like to read those this evening? Sure. Thank you. I'm sorry that I didn't give you a little bit more warning, but it's a good thing to read as well.
Okay, let's see here. So the board is asked to accept with gratitude the following donations. St. Helena Unified School District has received the following donation totaling $15,000. We'd like to thank the Coppola Family Trust and Nebom Coppola Estate Winery, DBA Inglenook, donated to the Performing Arts Program for their grants in visual and performing arts. The St. Helena High School has received the following donations totaling $500, donated by Barbara Rigdon, and this is donated to the St. Helena High School Scholarships. This is the 2025 Smith Family Scholarship donation. We've also received a donation by Ernesto Martinez, Market Restaurant, and this is for the St. Helena High School football team, and this is was a dinner for the St. Helena High School football team. So generous. Thank you so much to our donors.
Yes, thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Any trustees, any questions about this? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the gifts, donations, and earmarked funds as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Item 10C is the report on the California School Boards Association Annual Education Conference. And Dr. McClay, would you like to get us started on that? And then we can have the trustees speak.
I'm happy to. I think it's been, referenced a couple of times tonight that we were fortunate to have our full board with Mr. Heller and I. Dr. Vang stayed and held down the fort in our absence, but the 7 of us attended a variety of workshops. We sure logged our steps. It was in a huge venue, the Anaheim Convention Center, and so starting at 8 a.m. and going until about 10 p.m. every night, we were exhausted but learned a lot, spent a lot of time together, so we were able to debrief after each session and talk about the highlights and whatnot. I believe, Mrs. Pelosi, you're going to go down the line and have folks share their kind of single most.
Exactly. I think that would be great. And would you like to start down at that end, and we'll just work our way? Okay. Just, maybe one, if it's one highlight, couple highlights.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I had it all written down and then realized that my favorite little TKer decided that this was a good notebook to use artwork in, and I went to look for it and they were gone. So I tried to remember what I said. One of my favorites was a session, and this kind of applies to Mr. Cinto. It was all about CTE programs and dual enrollment. And it was kind of fascinating at their school. They have a lot of programs, and one thing they said that if a student starts their freshman year taking dual enrollment classes, they will graduate their senior year in only 6 credits short of an associate degree. And I think that's such a great thing because, you can go in as a transfer student. You obviously, it's going to help with costs. And I just thought that's probably a resource that we don't realize how valuable that would be. And the other was the CTE programs. And they talked about a lot of community partnerships, and maybe that's something we can work toward, that when students actually experience a career, it makes it more real, makes it more something to work toward. And this particular program did a lot of community. Students would go out into the community. They might work at this place for a day or observe or something, and kind of excited. Why do I have to take this science? Because if you're doing this, this is how it applies. But it was just a really good program about how we can, that not everybody's going to go off to a 4-year school. So how can we excite and motivate kids for, to make sure they have a goal. So that was mine.
Thank you.
I'm going to start first by letting the trustees know kind of my side job with CSBA. No, I'm just kidding. So I was invited to sit on the Small Schools of District Advisory Work Group. This was a couple years ago, and so we meet every Wednesday every month for about an hour and a half. It's a Zoom meeting, and so on Wednesday evening we met in person. That's the only time that we meet in person is at the CSBA. And so what this group does, it's obviously it's small school districts. So it's like, and some of the districts are just teeny tiny, and they're called like micro districts, I think is what they're called, where they're just very, very small. And the one thing that you may know, one of the things that we worked on that you might know about is the drowning and documentation report, and you received that by mail, I believe, and so that was something that we actually put together in collaboration with CSBA, as far as and the main gist of that was just smaller districts have just because the size of them, the responsibilities of the principal, superintendent, and administration, it's difficult for them to keep up with all the reporting that is happening through the state through CDE. And so part of that is bringing out what all of the reports that are necessary for all districts, and then also the next step is to start going to CDE and start saying which one of these reports can we start combining so that there's not so much reporting for all of our districts in general, but specifically for small districts because they're just overloaded with reports. Because there's some districts where, as we know, similar to like Pope Valley and Howell Mountain, they're both the superintendent and the principal.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Another thing that we've worked on, what we talk about in that one is also like transportation services, just because many of those are like long haul transportations and just the cost of that, and trying to get more, trying to advocate and collaborate with legislation to increase transportation that was coming to districts. And then also EV buses, as well as the cell phone policy, kind of the early, this fall. So that's what I'm up to every Wednesday of the month. So that, and then I tended to, and I look back at what I went to, I tended to go to policy and AI, and I don't know why I did both of those, because that's the farthest thing that I've thought about doing, especially policy. But I'm really starting to get more interested in policy. And then I'm going to combine AI and policy together, because there's been some new laws with AI, which is great, because there's still a lot of question about AI and how it's going to work in schools, what it's going to look like, what's the parameters, and those still haven't been worked out. But some of the laws that have gone into, that will start in January, AB 2885, the legal definition of AI, AB 2013, transparency in AI. There's an SB 1, I can't remember the number of it, AI risk management. There's AB 1008, privacy laws, AB 2876, and SB 1288, AI education initiatives, AB 2905, robocalls using AI. So as we can see, this is just the beginning of what's to come as far as is AI and what it's going to look like in general, and then and the question is specifically for school districts and for our students and things, what that's going to look like. I also had another AI workshop, and this one was with the Santa Ana Unified School District, and they're all in with AI. And if you want, they actually have a full information, kind of the synopsis of everything that they're doing in their district, and just go to their website, and it's on their website. So if you're interested in kind of learning more about how schools are using it and how they implement it, that would be a good one to kind of start with. So that's
great. Thank you.
May I say one more thing before it goes on? Because I missed a very crucial part of my little talk. I made it sound like we don't do anything here. And I was very proud at this workshop, Mr. Cinto, thinking all of the CTE pathways we have and how hard your staff has worked to bring in the dual enrollment classes. And I made it sound like, oh, we should do this and that. I blame Teddy because he ruined my notes. But I was very proud of St. Helena High and how we try really hard for students. So I wanted to give you a heads up on that. Okay, sorry about that.
Funny. Teddy. I also attended AI, but there were a lot of AI sessions, shocking. Mine was more about operational efficiency within the school district, both outward facing to parents, just like what you can type into a search engine and what you get back. And then also the types of things that you should be, what teachers should and should not be giving for guidelines in the classroom. So, you cannot use AI to create your essay. I know it's basic, but they spend a lot of time talking about that in the classrooms, and then also as a parent workshop to make sure the parents understand what they see happening at home, and to support what the school is saying is okay and not okay, so that there aren't plagiarism problems in the schools, which makes a lot of sense. The second one I would just highlight was data workshops, of course. And it just, further emphasize that just how important it is to create a data culture, which I know that most of our schools are, and PLCs are built on data. So it's just, again, a continuation and understanding that we're all in this for the reason of our children, our students, sorry, not children. And we all just want to make everything better. And it's not about like using data against anyone, any school. It's just how do we be better. So that was my takeaway again.
Dr. McClay and I attended the Advanced Governance Skills for Transformational Leadership session the day before the start of the regular convention. And we learned, well, I learned things you already know. I learned quite a bit from the session regarding governance and staff trust building techniques. We spent some of the morning on trust and learning those techniques and using them. And I do have the skills for transformational leadership, so I am happy to share this with you. There's a lot of good information on staff trust building techniques, coaching and mentoring skill sets with an emphasis in active listening and constructive feedback, and the importance of major decisions by the governance team being data-informed decision-making. We spent a lot of time understanding how important data-informed decision-making is for the governance team, and we also looked at samples of data and had table group discussions around that. So it was a really, I really enjoyed the day. I thought that the presenters were lively, informed. They had us do a lot of pair share, a lot of reflection writing, so it wasn't just listening. And it was nice working with our other table mates and learning about other districts. So it was a great day.
Great. Okay, I think what I'll bring it home with is to say that once again, when you go to these conferences, you realize how many things are going right at St. Helena Unified. And it's, I think, an important reminder, because sometimes you lose sight of what's going right, because what isn't necessarily perfect is what we focus on to improve. But I do want to call out that you sit there and you listen to things they're promoting or that they try to do at their school districts, and you say, well, we've been doing that for 4 years. And it makes you feel very proud. So I think I attended a student voice, student board member workshop, which I'm always interested in, because I am a big believer in student voice, and I love that we have a board representative on part of our board. And the three young women who presented, I think, blew pretty much every adult out of the water with their presentation. They were so articulate, but they were basically learning to use their voice for advocacy for what was happening in their schools. So there are some, so we took away some ideas for further training and how we can maybe improve our student board rep. So I know Dr. McClay was in that session with me, and so those are some notes that we'll bring forth, and whether it happens with Sunny or the next one, but they're all things on how to better improve that position as well for student voice. And I think, again, I always appreciate the opportunity for us to be together outside of this room. It allows us to learn about each other and also hear what's happening in the state as well. And there are some things that are unknown come January, and those are things we have to all pay attention to, of what could be happening. So everybody just stay alert as we move forward into the next year. So thank you. Anything else, Dr. McClay, you want to add, or you're okay? You're good? Okay. All right. Item 10D is the information on the 2025-2026 District of Choice application process. This is a written report, board. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Oh, okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? Okay. And, and next month as well, we'll be discussing enrollment caps, and then the lottery will be conducted next month. Okay? Thank you. Okay, item 11A is the presentation of the 2024-2025 St. Helena High School Site Strategic Plan. Mr. Cinto, please.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Before I begin, I want to let everybody know Mr. Ryan had a successful surgery. He is out. He has gained 5 pounds from eating Cheerios. He's got about 30 boxes. Everybody doesn't know. Yes, everybody brought Mr. Ryan care packages, and I think he ended up with 40 some odd boxes of Honey Nut Cheerios.
The parent group asked
he's
for
worried,
students to bring in Honey Nut Cheerios. Surgery on his
I appreciate that update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
I thought that was communal knowledge. All right. So this is just a quick overview of the things that we're going to cover today, pretty direct. So this was our process. Obviously, a school plan for student achievement, you have to involve your partners. For us in particular, it has to marry the WASC dictates because we want to keep our accreditation. So we try and pair those with the district LCAP goals and subsequent actions, and some of which get regurgitated for several years, given WASC occurs at least at St. Helena High School, every 6 years. We have a progress report every 3rd year. So we have to maintain that work. And then I did link that, but this is how I constantly track our goals to make sure that we're making adequate progress. And I did change the permission so you guys could see that. Okay, so LCAP Goal 1 for the district academic achievement. So what does that look like for us in terms of newer or additional strategies that we intend to employ this year? So the first one is, and that's a pretty confusing statement, defined EL pathways to graduation based on demographic factors mitigated through policy. So what that basically means is, our goal is to get all students to the finish line, right? We want all of our students to graduate. We do our teachers do a tremendous job in doing that. But our EL, this probably will not surprise you, an EL population is not homogeneous. It's very, very diverse within all ELs, whether they're long-term EL, do they come to us with academic preparation? We have kids that come in, at different times of the year, at different levels of the year. Some come as freshmen, sophomore, junior, senior. Some come with a 3rd grade education. Some come with other things. So that said, the landscape in California, there have been about 7 assembly bills that have passed in the last couple of years that give us leeway to change the graduation requirements based on demographic factors, some of which our EL students fall in multiple populations, right? I think about 40% of our ELs are also special education students. There's different allowances for them there's different allowances for homeless students, there's different allowances for migrant students. And how we manage that can a lot of times be confusing. Because where do they fit within that allowance? So our counselors, I can assure you, within the next month, in January, we will get a student that shows up in our office to register for high school who has a very mixed bag or mixed background in terms of what they're coming to us with. Of course, our goal is to ensure they're graduating from our school, but we have to be realistic about the factors that they're coming with. And as much as it might sound simple, well, you just put them in classes. That's not how it works. Because given these different scenarios for graduation and what we can allow for students, and given their level of preparation and acquisition of English, we try and create the best scenario for that student, even taking into consideration what we have at our disposal within adult ed, because they have a really great program. And when do we make that transition? So we've been working really hard with our academic counselors and our now that we have 2 periods of an EL coordinator, what does that look like at the onset? Because internal clarity breeds external clarity. So as students come in, a lot of families want them to just stay as long as they can to acquire the language, but that's not always the best course of action for that student, given the goal of getting a high school diploma. So we're working with our counselors, and we're kind of creating a spreadsheet that takes into consideration the different demographic factors that impact those outcomes so that we can make the best informed decision as soon as they come, because a lot of times they don't come with information readily available about their academic background. And then what does that look like long term? So if they come as a freshman, again, our goal is to get them to our 250 graduation requirement. But a student who comes and transitions to high school later in the game, depending on which demographic category they fit in, can graduate with as low as 130 credits, which is the California minimum. So our goal is, again, to get the kids to the finish line, but that finish line looks different for different kids. And how we do that as a school can be different based on who shows up and when they show up. So our goal is to increase our internal clarity and therefore external clarity for families. Goal number 2, you have probably seen this one before and wondering why we're bringing it back. We tried encouraging students in the past to take more courses of rigor. We had a metric, and by all extensive measures, we failed. But here's where I would say that metric, a lot of times metrics reflect what is easily measurable, but not what truly matters. it tends to ignore context that leads to ill-informed conclusions. So that's something we had abandoned in the past and stopped doing because it didn't yield results. But we know education is a human endeavor, and that sometimes we need to make decisions based on our values and not the bottom line, right? So in the past, when we initiated this goal and tried to make headway in getting more students who were not represented in courses of rigor, we had a marginal return on our efforts, and we stopped doing it. But I think it's important to bring back, because students and what goes into course selection, kids are very fickle when it comes to choosing courses. They do it for various reasons. And as much as it might have been perceived as that maybe our metric was wrong in how we used to evaluate that goal. So this is something we're going to bring back, because again, we know maybe it takes more than 1 year. Maybe, kids choose classes once during the school year. So we're trying to tackle it from multiple different areas, because we do feel it's important. Jeannie just talked about dual enrollment and what that means. While I don't have it on me, we know that students that take courses in dual enrollment tend to finish at a higher rate than students that don't. So pushing kids in that area is always going to be a good thing, even if it doesn't materialize, because we don't have a good model to track what every individual took. I mean, we do in our data system, but we don't know whether that encouragement made that change, or it was something, maybe it was their group of friends that made the change. So as much as we didn't get the results last time we tried this, we feel it's important to do, because again, you look at our vision and mission for our schools and our district, we talk about things like passion and resilience, and those are things that are really important to us and breed success later on in life, but we don't have metrics that can clearly say, do this, get that. So anywho, the last one is decreased disproportionality of our ineligibility list, which is established each quarter based on grades. So any student that's 2.0 or below or has 2 Fs. So our goal is to decrease the disproportionality of certain student populations that tend to be on the list more. But here's the best thing, and I'm glad Mr. Loelsdorf is still here and has not left prior to my presentation. So on the California dashboard, the only area that St. Helena High School is in the orange is in suspension rate. I'd also like you to know that we cut our suspension rate in half. So from 22-23, we suspended 23 students. Last year, we suspended 12. But our suspension rate on the dashboard went to the orange. How is that so? Well, if one kid in 23 is a more significant number than one kid in 12. So because the makeup of that shifted, we moved to the orange. The same thing happens with our ineligibility list. I can tell you I remember being the vice principal, and Mr. Loelsdorf can commiserate with this. When I was vice principal and granted that's years and years ago, we used to have an ineligibility list of 2 pages long. Last year, in first quarter, we had 34 students who were ineligible. That's based off in the preceding grading period. Then it went to 32, then 39, and then 64. A big jump going into fourth quarter, right? But first quarter this school year, we were down to 26. That's a decline of 60%. So 60% of students became eligible in first quarter this year who weren't the previous semester. And then we're down to 23, and that's something we continually track. So we're seeing great improvement in our ineligibility list, but we want to continue to encourage our students to set goals and achieve. We recently had, and again, thank you to our teachers. Many of you have sat in our Access Mentored Luncheon when we celebrate the students who become eligible. We discontinued that because now we have advisory. Our advisory teachers serve as mentors. They walk students through SMART goals created to what are you going to do to become academically eligible? What steps are you going to take? Is it attainable? What are obstacles that get in the way? We know that goal setting is a really good process for students to complete, because if they own it, and I mentioned this at the last eligibility luncheon, like the more they own that experience, the more likely they are to succeed. Goal number 2, around engaging an environment. Basically here, we're looking to set the stage for tomorrow's environment. So California has not lessened the load for for high schools. I'm sure you're all aware that by 27-28, we have to have a financial literacy class as a graduation requirement. We have been doing personal finance for years, even making it, we were awarded college prep status, retroactive 3 years, which helped kids in terms of A to G. But now California is saying, okay, everybody has to do that. And it's a really good thing. And I would say we've been on the forefront of that. Mr. Kalparis has been working with the next gen personal finance curriculum. He's attended professional development in the past, but obviously that landscape is shifting. So what is that going to look like for St. Helena High School by that time? And we hope to be an early implementer of that even prior to 27-28, depending on some other transitions in our district that might lend itself to an early adoption. But we're actively looking, what does that look like for us so that we can hit the ground running, knowing it's going to be vastly different in our current personal finance class. So ultimately it will most likely live in the 9th grade as a semester course because that's where we have the space to do it. But given other shifts in ethnic studies and those kind of classes and other staffing shifts, we believe we're going to be ready to go. Number 2, digital literacy professional development for advisory coordination. I am so thrilled at advisory. This is our first year, and yeah, we're always going to have hiccups along the way, but basically it's our place to teach explicit digital literacy skills. Our kids took I think it was a couple of weeks ago, on email etiquette. So how do you write an email? And we plan to implement other aspects of digital literacy. There's a lot of resources out there, but how do we do that knowing that this is a 4-year thing? So like this year, everybody is getting the same advisory experience. Well, next year, only the freshmen are going to get what's happening this year because we have to create an entire new curriculum for grades 10 through 12. And that process will repeat itself for the next 3 years. That's a lot of work, right? So there's another element in this plan about pacing that digital literacy and reviewing it over time because the tech scope and sequence that we've kind of adopted has gone by the wayside because we want to protect the academic time for academics and teach explicit tech literacy skills, and advisory is our vehicle to do that. Last one. Transition professional development. This is our first year working in PLTs at the high school, and we wanted to make sure every single teacher was involved in some level. The challenge for special education is they're a service, they're not a content area. So what do they unify? What are their essential standards built upon? Their guaranteed and viable curriculum. So as you're well aware, we have a transition program. We've folded Mary O'Donnell into our PLT at the high school, and we've settled on transition, independent living, vocation, education and training is the curriculum basically that's going to unify our special education department, knowing that many of those students will go on to our SHOP program, knowing that transition skills need to be taught to all students, required by age 16, but we tend to do it earlier. So how can we prime our students to be more adept at knowing what they're going to do career-wise, education-wise, and from an independent living standpoint? So we're working really hard on that, but we're small, right? So where do we go to find other things? So I'm currently working with the team to identify a professional development. And you're not going to find a just single transition professional development. It's going to be a hodgepodge of different special education things, but doesn't meet our needs with our goal to create a full transition program, not just SHOP, but 6-12. I just turned it off. Yes, no? All right. Rebecca? Sorry. Put Rebecca's daughter in there. Goal number 3, increasing engagement, student-parent engagement. Our quarterly coffee chats with RLS, Mr. Ryan and I did our first one, and we had a whopping 3 visitors. Luckily, Laura Simon was one of them. So, so as much as, again, that could be perceived as a failure or a huge success because everybody's happy. But so it was really intimate, and I thought it was a great conversation. We talked about rules and discipline and all sorts of stuff. which Mr. Ryan and I pivoted. We had our posters ready. We had, I don't know how many donuts and coffee we had there. It was great. My kids loved it. We also learned, and I think that's the great part, right, is we learned at that meeting as well that, man, it would be great if RLS in the elementary school had a coffee chat, knowing that we tend to operate, TK5, 612, but knowing those transitions can be challenging at times from 5th to 6th, as somebody who's living with that right now. So anyway, I shared that with Carmen and Andrea, and I think that that's something they're considering doing. We did not administer the survey at that point in time, but we had a survey ready to go, and our survey is built upon something, it's an old theory called sense making, and it's predicated on these three things. It's what do you want, and we centered it around what do you want around engagement, and maybe we could do this beyond that specific group. What do you want, what do you get, and how does that make you feel? And what you could do there is expose the disconnect between what people want and what they get and how they feel about that, and then make better decisions moving forward based on that feedback. So again, a survey sample of 3 probably wouldn't have gotten great actionable information. So Mr. Ryan and I talking about what that might look like in subsequent coffee chats. The next one's at the high school in January, so we're gearing up for that. Number 2, I don't think I really even need to talk about joint ELAC meetings. They did a great job of sharing the benefits of joint ELAC meetings. We're working with Araceli, Selene, and all the principals, and I just want you to know that, there are certain obligations we have to communicate from an information standpoint within our ELACs. Araceli is really good about making sure we do that, and we do. and then we use it as a learning opportunity as well. We've had some parents get up and speak in front of the other audiences, sharing their experience as their kids have gone through the system. We've done other things on drugs, alcohol, a lot of different stuff. A Parent Square training, an ARIES training. So we're using it as a vehicle to both educate, but as well as meet our obligation of the things that we have to cover. And number 3, last year we had great success with our A to G grant, and I don't know if that was 2 board meetings ago or 1 board meeting ago where you got to see the 10 kids who attended the pre-college summer program. I will tell you, we're following up. I think it was brought up about an A to G information night at the board meeting. I'm not sure. But the counselors and myself, and we've met with Sandra Hernandez at the middle school. We're going to have an A to G night on January 23rd. It'll be open to anybody. We'll publicize it district-wide because you shouldn't all of a sudden start thinking about A to G when you get to high school. It should be something you should know beforehand. So it'll be in English and Spanish. It'll be in 2 separate rooms. Miss Linder will be with Miss Hernandez in another location for the Spanish presentation, Mr. Garrity and myself, and we're talking about even roping in potentially Miss Sabin if that's something she's able to do. Because again, the presentation's done, ready to go. It was actually done last year. Because we want to make sure our parents are making informed decisions about subsequent course-taking behavior so that they can make the best decision for them and their child. All right, and we have one more goal. A lot of this can be housed under Goal 4, but and I didn't put a corollary LCAP goal because it's directed by WASC. But we'll continue our financial literacy within mathematics. So I have a spreadsheet that we've collected. So every single math course has intentionally built in financial-based questions, even all the way up to calculus, because it helps us destigmatize what am I going to use this for, right? Like when students see a question, even at the higher levels of math, that has a relatable context, it makes more sense to them. So that's something we're continuing. I would imagine it's going to sunset once the financial literacy class becomes a graduation requirement. We have it here at the high school, but that's something that WAS directed us to continue. Developing that 4-year grade level pacing guide for digital literacy instruction. So we've already surveyed our entire staff on what are the skills that students need. We've prioritized those skills. We've already began instructing in those skills in advisory, but we have to build like what is most important over the 4 years, knowing that advisory is not just digital literacy, it's college and career readiness, it's social emotional learning. So we have to prioritize what we do during that half hour once a week, because there's just so much more to do. And lastly, we're going through a data analysis protocol. I don't know if you recall, but I think it was 2 years ago, we were looking for an assessment that measured students' critical thinking and problem-solving abilities. We found one. We administered it to 10th grade. Last year was the first year what we wanted to do is administer it to 10th and 11th grade without doing anything, right? What is the natural progression? You know, we're talking about using data wisely. We didn't want to do anything and wanted to see what is the natural progression of students' critical thinking and problem-solving skills without doing anything intentional. So what change over time exists without doing anything intentional? If we find that there's value in that data and it helps us move our practice forward, is it reliable, is it valid, all of those things, then we could look at then taking action on if there's a perceived deficiency based on that data. So we're trying to be very intentional and slow with using that data because, one, it's costly, and we just want to make an informed decision without like having other things creep in that might address critical thinking and problem solving, which will kind of tell us that maybe it's something else that's contributing to that, and just the growth over time versus something we elect to do different, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Cinto.
You're welcome.
Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, questions, comments for Mr. Cinto?
I just want to say thank you for all the links and sharing all the information with us. There's a lot of, I like all your spreadsheets and things that you put together. So thank you. Very informative.
For sure.
Thank you. And I am assuming that you use those throughout the year then, as far as just
all the
tracking
time.
everything. Yeah. Right. Thank you.
I found my questions. Thank you, and thank you for clarifying some of the things, like the bullet types, like it went over my head.
Sometimes I do a bad job of like trying to narrow it. Like I don't want to put too much text on there.
I
so
don't get it.
Not a problem.
So my question, I think now I don't know, on goal
Here, I'll go back.
2, maybe?
Sure.
Because I was looking at the Word document, your 60-page Word document. So this was actually my question about environment. When I read it, it was about engagement of students, and I just wanted to make sure that because these feel more not student-focused. So I know you do a lot for student engagement. We hear about it all the time with Sunny. So is it not necessarily need to be elevated to an LCAP focus level because things are doing well? I'm just trying to understand what I didn't see, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, Sunny kind of spoke to it, and again, this is just off the top of my head right now. Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at our California Healthy Kids data, like our kids are engaged. Motivation, something different than engagement. I know, like even through the PLC process, we're tapping, how do we keep kids engaged? Like BTC is an engagement strategy. We do other things from a student voice to keep kids engaged. So to me, it's, that's a tough one. Like I wouldn't necessarily say I see it as a weakness within our student body. You look at, you could say, look at our club participation. We have more clubs. And I know Mr. Farrell, I gave him those statistics around sports participation. So even though our students our student population has declined, so 450, 422, and this year we're 412, we're seeing an increase in sports participation. So even just as early as fall, like we have 20 more kids who participated in fall, even though our student population declined. We have another 15 kids who increased our winter sports population, even though our student population declined. So it's not that I'm trying to shirk my responsibility, but sometimes doing more is not better. Doing better is better. And that's what I'm trying to do is create an environment for subsequent years of things that we're going to have to do by trying to take care of them now, because more is just more. And I think we dilute the pool the more we do without knowing what truly is having an impact.
That was my assumption, but I wanted to call that out because it did stand out as, and I know we have good engagement at the high school, so I just wanted to highlight that because I was reading the bullets and I'm like, well, you know what, you don't even highlight how well you do, but.
Sure. I operate from a deficiency mindset. What more can we do? What better can we do?
Anybody else? Questions? No?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cinto. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Okay, we're going to move on to business operations. Item 12A, contracts over $25,000 for December 2024. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you, President Pelosi. I have one contract over $25,000. That's a change order to the Crescendo contract that the board had originally approved at the October regular board meeting. There's a change order in the amount of $1,122. So that increases our not to exceed amount to a total of $104,273. And I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any anyone present or online who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the contracts over $25,000 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, now we have the public hearing and review of Resolution 24 regarding accounting of developer fees for the 2023-24 school year. Dr. Vang, please.
This is our annual developer fee resolution that I bring forth to the board. Now that the 23-24 financial books have been closed, we have actual revenues and expenditures for developer fees, which sit in Fund 25, and the information is in the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing for the accounting of developer fees for the 2023-24 fiscal year is now open at 8:28 p.m. One of my last gavels. Comments during the public hearing should be limited to the accounting of development fees for the 2023-24 fiscal year. It is our goal to hear from all who wish to be heard. We now invite members of the audience to address the Board of Trustees. The public hearing will remain open for at least 1 minute. But please, if anybody would like to address the board, please come forth. Mr. Heller, are you keeping track of time? Thank you. Thank you. The governing board has not heard any comments or concerns. So the public hearing is now closed at 8:29 p.m. Trustees, do you have any questions about the accounting of development fees for the 2023-24 fiscal year? No questions? Sorry?
I'm sorry, no questions.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Madrigal, do we need to, this is a voting thing, correct? The next one is the voting thing, correct? Okay, thank you. All right. So now we're going to do item 12C is review and consider approval of the 2024-25 first interim report. Dr. Vang, please.
All right, so this is our first look at our financial report. This is the first interim. The information that's included in the first interim reflects the state-approved, the state budget, along with estimates for our local control funding formula, also known as LCFF. The assumptions that I use here are assumptions that are obviously in the first interim, and the budget is also a best estimate. So this is information that I had at the time in creating the first interim report. The first interim report will also include expenditures, revenues and expenditures, not only for the budget year, which is this school year, but also for the 2 out years. So it will also include multi-year projection. On the next slide, These are the key assumptions used in the first interim report, not only for the current year, but for the 2 out years. And so you've seen this chart before. These are conservative assumptions when looking at property taxes. I've included a 2% increase for the out years. Most of this information comes from the dashboard, and these are numbers that are provided by School Services of California, which includes ADA amounts for not only lottery, but mandate block grant, unduplicated pupil count, supplemental grant portions, but these are all the revenues that are in the report. On the next slide, continue with key assumptions. We have for this year, we settle at 5.67%, and then the out years are to be determined. Step and column increases are budgeted at approximately 2% for both certificated and classified. STRS rate are projected to remain flat for the out years, whereas the PERS retirement system for classified staff is projected to increase in the out years. The assumption also includes a 10% increase in medical benefits, and for our medical benefits, the increase is on a calendar year, so come January 2025, we'll see an increase in our rates. Consumer Price Index is also from the dashboard. This year, we're at 3.23%. Moving on to the next slide. The first interim is a comparison to the budget that was adopted in June, and we're going to look first at the LCFF revenue. Budget adoption compared to first interim, you can see a slight increase there. And then on the next slide, for federal revenue and for state revenue, slight decrease in federal revenue and a slight decrease in state revenue as well. At budget adoption, I was estimating what we would end up, we would close the 23-24 school year with and come into the 24-25 school year with, and then once actuals were done, those numbers are now part of our first interim. Moving on to the next slide. This is our ratio of salaries and benefits compared to total expenditures for unrestricted resources only. So this does not include restricted resources, which are generally our one-time revenues, such as federal funds, ESSER, learning recovery, or title funds. So this is strictly unrestricted funds. And for this current year, you can see that our ratio is about 82%, and we're usually around 84%. This year, we're right about 82%, and the reason for this decrease is because of our one-time expenditures, such as the 2 electric buses that were paid out of unrestricted dollars, so that's going to increase our denominator. And also district-wide technology projects, such as the Crescendo phones that you've approved, and then also expenses from one-time revenues and some service contracts. And then also in terms of our salaries and benefits, we did have a superintendent vacancy that did result in some salary and benefits savings. So that's why we see a slight decrease from what we normally are at, which is around 84%. And again, this is only looking at unrestricted resources. On the next slide, these are our general fund contributions to restricted programs. These are mandated programs, but they're unfunded programs. So we fund these programs out of our general fund contributions, and that includes routine maintenance, which is Resource 8150, and special education. And so not only have I included the contributions, the estimated contributions for this school year, but also for the out years. And you'll notice that there's obviously an increase in the out years as we have more expenses to pay. So that is our general contributions. And then moving on to the next slide, we're looking at our multi-year projection. So for the multi-year projection, I've included both unrestricted and restricted resources. So this makes up our general fund. I've included revenues, expenditures, and you can see that based on my assumptions that I shared earlier, there's a projected net decrease in our fund balance, and not only in the current year, but also in the out years. And the third year, there's a significant decrease in our fund balance. And then our unrestricted ending fund balance. So again, this fund balance does not include restricted funds. It's just our unrestricted ending fund balance. We're ending up, the projected ending balance for this school year is 17.1 million, which is pretty slightly higher for 25-26, and then it decreases for 26-27. So for our reserves, we're looking at 1.4, 1.5. That's about 3%, which is what the state requires. And so we obviously are meeting our minimum reserve requirement. Our actual reserve, based on my budget assumptions, we have a projected reserve of 32, slightly over 32% for this year and next year, and then it decreases to about 29.5% for the third year. Moving on to the next slide, cash flow. Cash is king, and cash is money that we actually have the banks to pay our day-to-day bills and salaries and benefits. We started out this school year with a beginning cash balance of 19.7 million, and we are projected to have an ending cash balance of $17.9 million at the end of this fiscal year. And last slide. Actually, second to the last slide. Next steps. So once the board, if the board approves this budget, then it goes to the county office for review and submission to the California Department of Ed, and then come January 2025, we'll have the governor's proposed 25-26 state budget, which I will then use that information to prepare the second interim, which will come back to the board at the March board meeting. And that concludes my first interim presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? No? 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 Oh,
I'm just trying to, so I'm looking at the multi-year projection, unrestricted and restricted. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The multi-year projection, restricted and unrestricted. So the projected reserve, so now does that, for 24-25, does that account for the transfer that we made last month of the $5 million?
No, the $5 million is not included in the projected reserve. The projected reserve is the actual reserve. It does not include the 5% set aside.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
And keep in mind that $5 million set aside, I am going to be transferring those, journaling those out come next week and then April.
Right.
So
That's why.
right
Okay,
now, they're
got it.
sitting as a set aside in our
Okay.
first interim budget. By the time I bring this back in March, you will not see it there because it will be journaled out to Fund 40.
Okay, and I apologize. You've said that to us several times, and I apologize for that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question. This is like Budget 101. You know, it's not my forte over here. You always say cash is king. So beginning balance, 19 million, ending 17. What are, like, where does that money come from to start that pool? And then, so what this means is so far we've spent -2, what is that, 2 million to the where we are, and how low would we let that budget ever go, the cash balance?
So Cash is king.
Cash is king.
really
See, I know that
Cash
much.
is money that's sitting in the bank, right? And so I monitor our cash closely. There's a report that I run every month. So not only am I monitoring it closely, but the county is also monitoring our cash closely, because if we don't have cash, we can't pay our bills. That means we're going to have to take out loans, and that's a whole nother story that we don't want to get into. So with cash, this beginning cash balance 19.7, these are, when you look at revenue and expenditures, that net increase or decrease every year when I close our books and we have our actual numbers. Our actual numbers will actually tell us, do we actually have a net increase or a decrease? If it's a net increase, then it keeps adding on to what we have, right, to our actual cash that we have. And then keep in mind, as a basic aid district, our funds, our cash comes in at mainly 2 times throughout the year, December and April. So funds that we carry over from last year come into this year are included in the beginning cash balance, not to mention also revenues that we have received this year. So our 2 big pots are our property taxes, but also throughout the year we get sprinkles from state and federal funds that come in that, helps us with our cash. But mainly it's those 2 big pots that come in either December and April. So this is cash that we have in the bank. And in the actual report, there is a cash flow report. So if you look at that cash flow, you'll see it actually breaks out revenues by LCFF funding, state, federal, local, and then for expenditures, it'll break out by salaries, certificated salaries, classified salaries, benefits, books and supplies in the 4,000s, and then services in the 5,000s. And so you'll see an actual cash flow projection, not only for this year, but for next school year. So I usually include 2 cash flow projections in the report. Our county requires not only this year, but next year. So there's a full detailed cash flow report that's in the thick report attached to this agenda item. It's fun reading.
Thank you.
So from how I look at it, Jean Marie, is so we started out with 19 million for this year, and then after everything comes in as income, all the revenue comes in and all the expenses come out, we're going to end up at 17,954,000. So we basically have a net lot. We've had more expenses than we had revenue of 1,820,000. Is that correct? Okay, so that's kind of what that means right there. That's just we're running into net loss.
Balancing your check.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2024-25 first interim report as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Magical will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, future agenda items, you can see what we have coming up on Monday, December 16th. At that same meeting on December 16th, the oath of office will also occur for Trustee Kerr and myself to start our new terms. And then we meet in January. Trustees, do you have any other subjects for future agenda items?
I'm not sure if we're January, but as you know, I'm on this committee for the city's 150th anniversary.
Oh, yes.
And even though it's not till 2026, we'd really like to get people involved, especially with the schools, kind of like just so they would love for the schools to somehow build it into their curriculum, how they can, do the history, all that. So at some point, maybe January is too soon, but I know we'd like teachers to know more about it before this school year is gone, so they can start planning maybe appropriate thing. So whenever you feel it's appropriate, I'd love to do a little 5-minute thing about the 150th. The actual date is March 24, 2026, but you know, we've got a ways to go, but thinking about that.
Yeah, and
so
it may
throw that in.
The only reason I would be hesitant to say January after we come back from a winter break, we also have to conduct that lottery, which is going to take some time as well. So, Dr. McClay, perhaps you can, you know, talk with Trustee Wolf to see maybe when that might be best, whether maybe it's February or March kind of thing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, my apologies.
I thought we were having a student data presentation in January. Did that get moved?
With the board's consent, we'd like to push that to February. We've been working with staff, and I've been having conversations with several of you in terms, and looking at previous data reports so that we can be sure we're getting you the exact data that you want to see.
Okay.
There's something called a DRIP syndrome, DRIP, for data rich, information poor, and we want to make sure we're getting you the data that gives you the information that you need, not just data for data.
And was that going to be a separate study session? It was, right? Was that, or are we going to do it within the?
I thought it was within the meeting.
No,
but
that's
you
fine.
tell us.
A meeting within the meeting is fine.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify in case anybody was curious.
No, I thought there was something like January 17th, maybe, because I remember I wasn't here, and it was like
that might have been it.
With your agreement, I'd like to talk with, excuse me, after Monday when we have our next president.
Okay.
And really look at that, because we've had several requests for different workshops, so we may be able to utilize that date in another format and put the data within a board meeting. So if we could have another week or so to finalize that, it would.
Yeah.
Sure,
Board.
thank
Is
you.
that
I just wanted to
okay.
make sure that it
Yeah.
didn't-
No, I appreciate that.
didn't
Thank you.
get lost.
No, you're right. It was scheduled the 17th from 1 to 3. So
Okay. So Dr. McClay will follow up after Monday with the board president. Okay. Thank you. And so with that, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Meeting ended at 8:48 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying.
Yeah.
Yay.